Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how to make a cursed tree. Now there's a lot of videos out on YouTube that show you how to make trees for your terrain. And most of those have to do with wiring a lot of different wire loops together to make a detailed tree with lots of little spindly branches up in the canopy. This tree doesn't have any of those little spindly branches, just a few main trunks. I wanted it to look like a long dead tree, and I wanted it to have a little bit more of a kind of a face built into the trunk of the tree, as if it is, somewhat sentient or alive in some way. And for the campaign that I ran it in, I actually had it come alive and turned into kind of a whomping will-o-wisp kind of tree where the branches are swinging around and hitting characters. That was the idea with this, so that it actually had more limbs that it could swing around rather than having tree branches that were representing more of a live tree. So this one is a pretty simple tree to make compared to a lot of those more detailed versions. And let's go to the tabletop and see how this one is done. All right, for this project, we're starting off with some aluminum sculpting wire. This is just a little bit thicker wire that's easy to mold into different shapes. And I'm roughly forming it into the shape of the tree that I wanted. Just kind of, winding and twisting them so that the branches and everything line up sort of the way that I want to. I'm using some hot glue to glue it down to a base that I had from a different project. And then I'm coming along and making sure that the base also looks a little bit more like roots. I'm using that hot glue to kind of build up that base to give it a kind of a rooted feel. Then I'm going to use some tin foil and start wrapping the tree to give it the bark texture and bulk of the tree that I want. So instead of trying to get the full bulk out of the wire, I'm just using tin foil to do that for me and just kind of wrapping it around each of those branches and twisting tightly to give it that crinkled, barky look. Right now, these are just twisted in place. There's no adhesive. I'll come along later with some hot glue and you'll see, where I add a little bit of hot glue to make sure that it stays in place. I'm going to take a chunk of that aluminum foil and just start crinkling it up into a rough shape face that I will glue onto the side of the trunk. I'm using the pliers to kind of form the eye sockets and the mouth of that tree face that I wanted. Now tearing that off and wrapping it onto the base of the tree. I'm going to use some hot glue to attach that face onto the side of the tree. And here's where I'm going to use that hot glue also to go up around the other branches and make sure that the aluminum foil gets adhered in some fashion. So just putting a little bit of hot glue here and there and texturing that hot glue with the tip to give it still that branchy look. Now I gave it a black undercoat with a black spray paint, and now I'm using a brown spray paint to kind of overcoat the rest of the tree. Using a coffee color to dry brush the branches now to give it that weathered old tree look. I'm doing that also down onto the ground because I wanted to have kind of a dead autumn forest look to the base of the tree. Adding some white glue to the base, I will brush that around to make sure that it's covering all of the ground spaces. And then sprinkling it with some birch catkins. These are the seed pods from birch trees. Here is a look at the final product. This is, again, a really simple project, but for what I wanted, it was a great little project to get me the tree, sentient tree that I wanted for the session. So I hope you liked this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.